Hey everybody, this is Graham Wilkinson, and it's time to connect.
Hey, Graham Wilkinson, man, thank you so much for taking the time to connect.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. It took a minute, but we got it all sorted out, huh?
Yeah, we've been trying to do this for a while and we finally made it happen. I really appreciate it. How are you doing?
I'm well. It was a late night. Last night I was at the Continental Club and got home around 2:30 or 3, and then I was up for a minute, but got up, got my kids to school. We did it. Another day.
Right on. I definitely want to talk about, the residency at Continental and all of your music, your collaboration, your songwriting collaborations, songwriting, any upcoming gigs or records, a lot of things like that. But why don't we start with some kind of bio? Can you just give us a potted biography? I know you did grow up here in Texas. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Born in Denison, Texas, up in North Texas, outside of Dallas, and my dad, retired lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, but he was a chaplain, but he was a Methodist minister. And so we moved around quite a bit through North Texas and went to school in Arkansas at Hendrix College uh, and spent some time overseas in between there. I dropped out of college for a little while. I finished, stay in school, kids. Uh, and I lived in Greece on the Greek islands for about 3 or 4 months, and then traveled around Europe. And when I graduated, I volunteered overseas on the island of Ponape in Micronesia, and I taught English over there. And that's when, this is pretty quick, but that's my brother passed away while I was over there. He was up in New York playing music in the anti-folk scene and on the Lower East Side. But that's when I came back to the States. I was wrestling with what I was going to do. It was like my options were New York, Nashville, Los Angeles, or Austin. And it was a pretty easy decision to make. So I moved down here in 2004. And yeah, just been here since, plugging away.
Yeah, right on. How old were you when you started playing music?
Um, well, I had to sing in the church choir growing up,
Gotcha.
and I dreaded it. And I was in choir in high school, but I got my first guitar when I was like 14.
Okay.
We found out that we had to move to Wichita Falls, Texas from Commerce, and I was just envisioning tumbleweeds, and I didn't know there was an actual city there. But yeah, I got the guitar, and my dad bought it for me, I think kind of as a, I'm sorry, we have to move again. And that's when, about the same time, first heartbreak happened, and I started learning songs on the guitar. And uh, I ended up learning, I think it was called Polestar or something, but in the early days of the internet, I just got on and learned every song that I ever liked, from Poison to John Denver. I don't even know, old Woody Guthrie songs. And I just would consume all that. And after learning so many songs, it was kind of a natural progression to think, well, maybe I should write one. I
Hmm.
mean, none of the songs were speaking directly to how I was feeling. So, and then I got a banjo in high school, and then just stringed instruments and piano. I just kept, you know, trying out different instruments, all self-taught. And, it was, it, it seemed natural to want to write, but there's definitely some, I never thought that this is what I was going to be doing. I got my degree in art. I thought painting and pottery and all that was going to be more up my alley. But I think when my brother died, that was kind of the catalyst
Hmm.
to go ahead and answer the cosmic calling of,
Hmm.
this is
Yeah.
what I have to do. So,
Yeah. Right on. Well, let's talk a little bit about your songwriting and your approaches to songwriting. it's damn hard, isn't it? How do you have any typical method in terms of what comes first, lyrics, chord changes, melody? Does it kind of happen all at once? Do you ever sit down and say, I am going to write a song today, come hell or high water, or does it tend to come to you? Just talk about your songwriting, if you will.
Well, you know, there's a lot of different ways that songs come into being. I think you know, over the years, I think it's changed over time, to be honest. You know, early on, it was, like I said, you know, processing a feeling or a thought. You know, if I was happy or sad, then I would try to figure out a way to express that. Things that I was worried about. But, you know, I would say right when I moved to Austin, a lot of the songs were obviously about grief and losing my brother.
Yeah.
But around then, in the earlier part of, you know, making records, there were a lot of songs that, you know, were born because I was listening to a song I liked, whether I knew what it was or not. And I want to write a song kind of like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what gave rise to so many different genres and sounds, you know, from country music to reggae to, you know, just folk music, music of the people. But, you know, the last few years, probably the last 5 or 6 years, I've been a part of some different projects where when you're writing with someone else, there's something else going on. That's the thing that's going on. And, you know, I'm fortunate enough because I was, you know, asked and hired in some examples to only write lyrics or to focus on, you know, more specific things like the project labor department, LBRDPT, as you find it. But so two of the brothers from the Wheeler Brothers, they hit me up, and that was a thing where I was, you know, hired basically to just help write lyrics and help write music. I wasn't supposed to be playing any of the instruments on the recordings. I wasn't supposed to, I didn't have to, I guess is the other way to say it. We had a great producer, and that was, I thought, the best gig in the world. We were flying to New York and LA almost every other weekend. But after a couple of years, you know, there was definitely something missing inside where I'm like, I need to express something. And that gave rise to, you know, some of the last record, Cut So Deep, that was put out during the pandemic. But I will say on that note, since this past March, I've been a part of Bruce Hughes' songwriting group. And you get the prompt Thursday morning. You've got to submit it by Wednesday night the next week. And those prompts have been outstanding. I mean, the last single, Deleted, and there's a whole slew of songs that my drummer and my producer, we're going to be going through to try and release a bunch of new music. But I've really loved that.
Yeah.
You know, something that's just so out of the blue, and I've treated it, you know, more importantly than any kind of academics in my life.
Yeah.
You know, where it's
Yeah.
Wednesday evening and it's super late, and I'm like, I've got to finish writing this song.
Right,
you know,
right.
whatever it is, whatever it was about, whatever alley or pathway I decided to go down, you know, for the sake of the song, like that Towns line, you know.
Yeah.
It's like a responsibility more than it is just expression.
Yeah, there's something about that collaborative thing that makes that puts a different kind of pressure on you. Have you read Jeff Tweedy's book, How to Write One Song?
No, but one of my best friends, Dustin, the Flying Ray, he's been talking about that book a lot.
Yeah,
it's great.
You know, when I was younger, I sort of avoided any kind of prompts or any kind of, you know, responsibility or any kind of, you know, I remember Guy Clark used to talk about a lot of his songs. Man, I went to the office in the morning just like I had a regular job, and I wrote just like it was a job. And I always thought, oh man, I'm too romantic and idealistic for that. I'm waiting for the muse to just, but man, there's sure something to be said for having the prompts, having the you know, forcing yourself to have to sit down and write a song in 30 minutes, those kind of things can really produce some great stuff.
Yeah, I think, well, you know, and one of the neat things is that my drummer and producer, best friend of, 20 years, Patrick Hertzfeld, I'm fortunate to have him in my corner because, we just got done building a huge studio at his place. And so a lot of these songs, there was a while I was like, hey, what are you doing Monday or Tuesday? And we would find the time. So I'd have either some lyrics or some melodies out, but then I got to go into the studio as opposed to just using my phone and using the voice memo and recording this, and either way, there's still, I listen to some of the voice memos and then listen to what we did in the studio, and that collaboration produces so many other, special things. But
yeah.
But there's still those other, the previously mentioned inspirational type things. Those still come, waiting for, that moment to be inspired. But it's if you get more deep with it, just the job, or the responsibility of like, well, I was talking to my buddy about He's Gone, Grateful Dead song, and we were both talking about it, and this was with Nolan Wheeler from Labor Department. We were up in New York sitting on this roof looking at the skyline, and then as we were talking about it, we realized we both had a different era of the Dead, of that song in our head. I was like 77 all the way, and he's like 72, and then we just started going in on that. And how I remember saying, once you write the song and you put it out there, it's kind of out of your hands at that point, because however people take it in, that's the way they're going to take it in, and you don't have control over that. You don't have control over your fans who likes your music, and with that role comes, I'd say, that responsibility. And at the end of the day, it depends on what you want to do. It depends on what your goal is or why you're trying to play music for people, I guess.
Yeah. Have you ever had that feeling writing a song that it's a little bit cliche, but I suspect you have, where you feel like a conduit or something? It's like, it's just happening. I'm just getting out of my own way and letting this song almost write itself.
Oh, 100%.
What do you think that is? What do you think that is? Because a lot of people say, well, it's the song was already there and you just found it or something. And I think Towns may have even had some kind of comment about that. And others would say, no, man, it's just your subconscious. It's been working in your subconscious for a while, and you just got out of the way and let it happen. What do you think it is? Is it even explainable?
Well, I think it's a combination in a way. I think the motivation behind an individual and what they're trying to do, if they're trying to, get famous or make money or whatever it is, if they're trying to tap in and write a pop song that people are going to like no matter what. But, I think, I was thinking you were saying about, there's like a Woody Guthrie quote that's like, all the songs in the world, they exist. It just takes someone with find a pencil and a paper to write it down. But some songs, they do, in a way, write themselves, and other songs, it does take that dedication. My brother, looking through his notebooks after he passed, there was one song that he was working on for like 4 years, called Just a Man, and there's like 9 verses in it, and it's very Dylan-esque in a way. But I think sometimes they deserve that attention to detail, and sometimes geez, I don't have a clue, man.
Amen.
There are moments of creative where it just happens every day. It's like you can't stop, but you have to make time for yourself and make time for that to happen, or it won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds kind of ridiculous, but
You used the word Dylan-esque. One of the questions I like to ask a lot of my guests is, what about Bob? Has Bob? How do you think of Bob? How much has he influenced you? Just I'm sort of obsessed with him. He's just such an endlessly fascinating character, and the new book is amazing. I don't know if you've seen that, but
I haven't read it
it's
yet.
incredible. I mean, it's just, are you kidding me, Bob? At age 80 or whatever, he still just keeps putting out this just amazing stuff. How do you think about Bob?
Oh, he's pretty close to number one in my book. The two Bobs, Dylan and Marley, were such huge influences from like 11 or 12 years old on. Before I was even really writing songs, but, Dylan is it's hard to talk about him without going through all of his influences, but I mean, I just saw him this last March when he came to Bass, and I made sure to listen to Rough and Rowdy Ways a bunch before I saw it, because I knew he was playing a lot of that set. I've seen him like 8 or 9 times. I mean, and every year, it's coming up this month, a bunch of friends of mine, we all do the last waltz the day before Thanksgiving. It's going to be at the Far Out Lounge, and I've had the honor of playing Dylan the last, like, I don't think 6 or 7 years, and I sang Forever Young at my brother's funeral, and we also did.
How the hell did you get through that, man?
Oh, well, I had some help with some people singing along with me, but on the chorus. And we also sang Two Hands by Towns at my brother's funeral, so that was another one kind of the same. But it's hard to really express how big of an influence he is, because it's immeasurable. It's huge. And he's the man for sure.
So when a follow-up question I like to ask people is, if Bob showed up at your door today, doorbell rings, you go to the door and there's Dylan standing there, and he said, "Hey, Graham, I hear you're a songwriter. Play me one of your songs." What would you play him?
I'd probably play him it's a newer song called Night Flower. I wrote it a year ago. I wrote it thinking about my dad and his Lewy body dementia diagnosis, which he's dealing with. But it was the day John Prine died. And I love the song. It's weird I don't really talk about songs that I like that I wrote. There's very few that I'm like, oh, I really like this song. But that's one that, everybody was going online and doing tributes to John Prine, singing one of his songs. And I just thought, man, John Prine would probably write a song for his hero that had passed. And, I mean, when you ask me that question, what would I sing? I just think about that clip, and I think it's Don't Look Back, where like Donovan's when they're in the hotel room. And he does like Mellow Yellow, or he does something, and Dylan does It's All Over Now, Baby Blue.
And just, you can hear a pin drop. It's like, are you kidding me?
And it's hard not to think that he's just destroying him, like whether it's just
he could be cruel. He could be cruel.
Like, that's a neat song you just wrote. That's really
that's cute. Now let me show you. Let me show you something that's going to devastate you. Well, man. One of the things that fascinates me about you is just your attitude. We don't know each other, but I know enough about you to know you have a pretty positive, amazing attitude. I'll just read a couple things from your website. The importance of family and service to others is what you were raised on. Laugh until life makes sense is a phrase that you like. You just seem like a guy who's trying to spread the cosmic cheer. Where does that come from? Is it true?
It is, and I mean, the brutal, the brutally honest answer is, I would say from just being cognizant of all the sorrow and the grief in this world.
Yeah.
The service to others was definitely, it was taught, but it was also expected.
Hmm.
And that's, like I said, it's become, I would say like a responsibility. It's like if you if you can help, you should. But you know, I'd be lying if I didn't say there wasn't a lot of darkness
Sure.
in my life personally, and not just with the loss of my brother, but with a lot of people. And I think a lot of people who lack empathy have not suffered great loss. Not to judge them or anything, but that's just perspective wise. And the laugh until life makes sense. That's from a line in a song called "Let It Go," and that one came very naturally. It was the day of my first show at the Saxon Pub, like 2005. I had the Wednesday at midnight slot after Malford Milligan, and there was no one there, and except for Malford. He stayed, which was awesome. But it just came from the idea that life never has and never will make sense, and I feel like laughter, and I feel like it's one of the most potent medicines to deal with the heavy realities that we all face, as a society. And and to be honest, I just remember at a very young age, 6 or 7, looking at this coffee table book, like the first 50 years of Life magazine. And just flipping through it, but there are so many images of war and brutality that go along with the little kitty cat and the soup ladle and all these things. And I remember asking my dad, that iconic image of like the Australian soldier, like on his knees about to get beheaded by this guy with a sword. It's like asking my dad, I'm like, people kill each other? Like, it was mind blowing to me. I was like, why? I was like, what could be such a big deal that you would do that?
Yeah.
And bless my dad's heart for having to answer such deep questions to a young impressionable kid. But he was always there and talked me through that. But I don't know, man. It's I feel like it's the way that I can keep dealing with things and coping with these worries and fears, because there's no way getting around all that.
Yeah.
And some people ignore it, and I just feel like it's my responsibility to address it in whatever way I can and try to provide some comfort for those people who I hope that there's some comfort provided with these things that I'm doing. So
yeah, and I applaud you, man. I think that's fantastic. And you've got 3 kids. You're a family man. So that do you feel like you're imparting that wisdom on to your kids?
I hope so. I think they're all very amazing individuals. And my wife, I'd be a mess without her. She's my rock and my inspiration, and she's always there for me. But my daughters, the twins are 12, and then my oldest daughter, she's in her early 20s, but they're all just lovely people, and they're better than me than I was at that age. So and I can't imagine them going anywhere but up from here.
That's great. I too have a daughter just out of college and a and a 12-year-old. So I definitely relate. Well, man, let's see. I have a bunch of rapid fire questions I want to ask you as we start winding down here in a minute. But let's just first make sure we give a shout out to some of the stuff that you're doing. People who don't know, one video I really recommend people watch if you don't know Graham is Cut So Deep. What a cool video. You have a bunch of really interesting guests appearing on that. You did a Christmas record last year, and with Christmas record or with Christmas coming around again, maybe people will be interested in that. You've got a new song out called Deleted. You have a Wednesday night, or is it Wednesday night? No, that's John D. The residency at Continental is
Well, it's Tuesdays in November after
okay.
James Mercury at midnight, and then December I'm moving to Wednesdays after John D at midnight.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a lot. Anything before we move on to rapid fire questions? Anything you want to say about all that?
Oh man, the Cut So Deep video was, that song was written before everything locked down, and it was about my wife and about being gone all the time. And then it was pretty much done, but then with the lockdown, the song seemed to take on a different meaning. And then that's when I got the idea of just asking all my friends and fans and family to video themselves singing along with it. And I enjoy that. It's pretty cool. And some of the people that said yes to that, I'm still very grateful for them taking time to do that.
Yeah, you got some cool folks on there. This could turn into a long thing, but maybe you can make it kind of brief. I don't want to take too much of your time, but the MTV thing, I have to ask about that. That's so interesting. Can you tell us about that MTV thing? Was that 2011, something like that?
Yeah, that was the Focus single. And real quickly, my manager at the time, he's the one who I started the company Until Life Makes Sense with. And the line, Laugh Until Life Makes Sense, we were up in Nashville talking to some producers about recording and doing all this stuff because we were getting ready to record the Focus video. And we were leaving Nashville and we're at the airport, and I realized I had a beer in my bag in my carry-on. I don't know where it came from. Anyway, then I was like, you can't bring this through security. And I was like, okay, do I just throw it away? And they said, you can't bring it through security. And I was like, okay, well, can I just throw it away? I mean, you're not answering my question. Like, sir, you cannot bring it through the security line. I was like, well, can I drink it right here? I mean, there's no one in line. Yeah. And it was like 8 o'clock in Nashville at the airport. And he just repeated that. So I just opened it and downed the beer right there in the security line, which I think is illegal, but they didn't do anything. They let me go through. My manager, Justin, was like, yo, dude, whatever you do, don't take that advice and from the Laugh Until Life Makes Sense and drink until life makes sense. I was like, well, I'm not. And then we started laughing on the plane, and we were like, wow, there's like any verb could go in front of that, run until life makes sense, fish. And that was essentially the beginning of, him ceasing to be my manager and us starting that company. And you can go to untillifemakessense.com and see all the hats and shirts and the different things, the different lines that we have that go along with that. But the Focus video was one of those things that the song came very naturally. Patrick and I recorded it all by ourselves. I played bass and piano. He played drums. We did the backup vocals. And we were talking to these two brothers, the Bukadakis brothers, and then JB Hager, JB and Sandy show. JB was one of the producers, and we met out in Elgin at like 4 o'clock in the morning. We shot it in one day and had a bunch of family and friends and fans be a part of it. And I remember them giving me a couple treatments for the video, and there were so many of them. I was like, I don't really like that. I don't really know. And so it came down to that video. And then I remember we hired a video publicist up in New Jersey that we had worked that we know some people had worked with. And of course, trying to think, I think it's hip promo video, but the guy was listing all of these different places he was going to pitch it to. He was going to put it on this online and do this blog and this vlog and all this. And Justin really is he's the one who organized the video, one of my best friends in the world. And he was one of the best managers because he also hadn't dealt in the music industry. He just was very bothered by the way that it was run. You know, he thought it was one of the most corrupt, crooked things that he's ever done. And he's been in business, in so many different businesses his whole life. But I remember him being on a call with this guy. He's like, you know what? I don't want you to send us any more emails or tell us anywhere that you're going to do this. The only place that we want the video is on MTV or VH1. So those are the only two places you should be focusing. I was like, yo, Jay, and ease up. We don't want to piss him off. And he goes, we paid him the money. That's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to do that. And so I told him to only focus on that. And sure enough, like the next week, it was on one of the other MTV channels, like the college channel, MTVU. And it was on like a Battle of the Bands video type of thing, up and coming, the freshman class is what they called it. And so, you know, super grassroots, no label, you know, we just sent personal messages and emails and asked people to share it and to vote and everything. And after that week, it was the most shared video. It was the most viewed.
Most commented on.
Most commented on of all the ones in the competition. And we lost. We still lost.
Oh.
But my song, out of all of the songs on MTV.com and on the channel, it was number 2.
Wow.
And, you know, that still is, it's wild to think about when those memories on your phone or on Facebook come up. It was a triumphant thing to be independent and
right.
and make that.
And
we went on some great tours because of that publicity and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Man, that's really cool. Well, hey, you have you've collaborated, opened up for, played with a pretty cool list of people: Alejandro, Carll, the Tijuana Trainwreck horns, Ramblin Jack, the Gourds, Greg Brown. Who's someone you've never worked with or shared a stage with that you'd like to?
Oh, dang, that's a good question. Is this part of the rapid fire? I'm so indecisive.
No, it's okay. It doesn't have to be super rapid. Just these ideas, short answers.
You know, someone that's out there that well, there are a few. I mean, and honestly, okay, I'll say this is somebody I thought. Another Alejandro, Shaky. He's a pal. I've hung out with him a handful of times. Super sweet. Never played a show with him, but I love his music. I mean, if I'm going any bigger than that, you know, oh God, I have no clue. I mean, there are so many things that I try to do when I'm working and I'm looking to try and get a show or get a job. As my father-in-law, as a jazz guitarist, would say, he doesn't call them gigs. He goes, "You got a job? You know, you got a job tonight?" But there are so many things where, like, I seek out these opportunities based on what I see, and luckily, you know, my style and genres and what I do, they seem to fit and go along with a lot of different kinds of music. And you know, with reggae music and with country music and with
maybe even hip hop.
And hip hop, I mean, that was the thing that, you know, over the decade, Texas country music, the red dirt country music, just you can just stay in Texas and have a career, and not really fitting into that genre and not really fitting in the jam band scene. I mean, that's where I got to open up for G Love and Spearhead and some of these other acts that I thought were way more up my line. And so yeah, I don't know. It's pretty much an answer, I guess, right now.
Something to think about. So let's see. What was the last album you listened to?
Hmm.
Do you remember?
Well, like the whole way through, or one that I was just listening to the other day?
Yeah. However you want to answer that.
I'll do two of them. I'll just say this. I hadn't listened to the Waylon and Willie record in a while, and I was looking up what's the song? I Can Get Off on You. I was like, oh man, I was just driving through the country and I looked that up, and then I ended up listening to the whole record driving through the hill country. And you know, like when you hear songs that you haven't heard in a long time and you remember them, it's like, oh man, I forgot about this song.
Yeah.
And there was this other dude that I listened to the other day that it's white boy Southern California rap it's out there, and it's pretty explicit. This guy named Gordy Kiefer.
Okay.
And there's no reason why I should be listening to it. I'm not his target market by any means, but
Right.
Lyrically, it's bonkers how he puts words together, and that's why I was just so amused by it and interested in it. But,
Absolutely, man. I think people get too stuck in their genres and they're missing so much. So one album, you can listen to one album for the rest of your life. What is it?
Oh, well, I know we've talked about, I've been on so many tours where we talked about this. As much as it would either be Blood on the Tracks or Kind of Blue by Miles Davis. I mean, because I know that I'm probably go crazy listening to any record over and over again.
Sure.
I've listened to both of those records so many times, and every time I'm like,
me too. Yeah. I don't think the question's meant literally. It's more just to make you identify that, you know, and by the way, there's Kind of Blue there. Probably have Blood on the Tracks up there somewhere. But okay, favorite venue to play?
You know, I say this a lot. The Continental Club is one of my favorite venues to play in the world.
What a history too. What do you like most about living in Austin?
I think I can say the community.
Yeah.
I think I can say that.
Yeah.
That's just the entire group.
Yeah.
Even the non-musicians, but because that just
it's a great
a small town vibe.
It does. It's great, man. What do you like least about Austin? Living in Austin?
That the pay scale for musicians hasn't changed in 40 years.
Yeah.
How about
that? Yeah. Have you seen that meme that's going around? It's the Back to the Future image, and what's his name? Christopher
Lloyd.
Yeah. He's coming back, and he said something to the effect of 20 years from now, musicians are still getting paid $100 a gig. You know. Hey, what pisses you off?
Besides myself and my own actions and thoughts, you know, what pisses me off? I mean, it's been the thing since the beginning, and then how to deal with that anger is I would say injustice, or just the
Yeah.
when people are doing harm to others, and probably.
Yeah. And do you have any kind of method of dealing with the slings and arrows of life? Do you meditate? Do you pray? Is it music? What do you go to when things are tough?
Well, I will say this. I am a big advocate for taking care of yourself, and I go to my personal therapist once every other week, and then I have one with my mom and sister about my dad's loss, his dementia, on the other weeks. Music is the main thing, but I used to feel like music was the thing that made me be okay. But over time, I've just learned to value and realize the importance of self-care, but self-forgiveness, self-love, and I couldn't do that without Sims. They've been one of the largest helps in my life here in Austin, that support they provide to people in the music industry.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's beautiful. Last two questions, man. And if you've watched any of the episodes, you know what they are, because I ask these. These are always my last two questions. First, the really heavy one. What do you think happens when we die?
I've been waiting for this one. I came up with this probably 20 years ago, and you don't need to talk about where I was cosmically or mentally or physically, but when I think about that, when I think about what happens when we die, it's hard not to go back to this answer that whatever you did, the sum of what you did, what you put out there, that's what you become a part of. The beauty, if you tried to do good, if you did wrong, if you hurt people, you're forever a part of the of the good and the bad. And some people don't do anything. Some people don't even have the chance, and there are a lot of hopes and wishes beyond that. But that's where I trail off into the differences between existentialism and nihilism, and what I guess it depends on the weather.
Yeah. All right, man. Last question. When you are dead and gone, what do you hope people say about you?
I hope they say something that you said earlier, that trying to be positive and bring light into this world, and that's where I'm the biggest critic of myself, about like that. I know since the Dylan in you, but like his last thoughts on Woody Guthrie, when he's rambling, he's like, what am I giving, what am I taking? What have I done? I hope that I'm remembered for at least giving it my best shot to try and make it better, and not contribute to the bad stuff.
Yeah, I suspect they will say that. They're already saying that about you now. And man, I admire you, and I really appreciate you taking this time to connect. And I hope our paths cross sometime soon. I told you I'll be in Austin soon doing a little gig. If you can make it out, that'd be great.
Yeah.
If not, I'll catch one of your gigs sometimes at Continental.
Yeah, I definitely. Wait, what is your show with Kevin's, the 13th or?
It's this Sunday.
Sunday.
So that's the 13th at Cherrywood.
I remembered. Yeah, man, I just want to say thank you for having me, and I appreciate all these kind things that you're saying. I really appreciate you asking me to be a part of this.
Right on, man. Thank you so much. We'll see you down the road. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Right road.
Take care.
Cheers.